Alrighty, so the final day of group stage action in this World Cup is in the books, and I think it's only fitting that on this final day of group stage action, we would once again see chaos in these games, because that's been kind of the word to describe this World Cup. Like, it is just unbelievable chaos of what we've seen in some of these group stage matches, and some unexpected teams moving on into the next round, and some unexpected team crashed out in this World Cup. And once again, we saw some big upsets and some unbelievable result that seems unthinkable just a couple of hours ago leading into this game, and then it happened. And one of those is South Korea versus Portugal in the first game. And, coming into today's action, South Korea was dead last in their group, and that they would actually need a couple of miracles and definitely some resort to go their way in order to move on to the next round. Well, not only the fact that their prayers were answered in today's action, but they did it in the most dramatic way against Portugal. And it did not start off well for them, because in the 5th minute of the game, Portugal take a 1-0 lead. It's Horta scoring from Dalot to give Portugal a 1-0 lead, and it was all Portuguese early in this game. Like, South Korea, they barely had the touch of the ball. Kim Seung-gru would then deny Canelo from a tight angle before the first shot for South Korea didn't came until the 18th minute, when Cho Grin-sung is denied by Costa. And, it's not surprised to see him once again noted on here on the board, because he's been pretty much the most dangerous attacker for the South Korean team. Not to mention he scored a brace in that last game and in that loss against Ghana. But there was no doubt that South Korea was starting to slowly getting themselves into this game after they were second best for the first part of this game. And they actually got the equalizer in the 28th minute, as Kim Young-gwon would give the equalizer for South Korea. And I would also want to put Ronaldo in the assist chart too, because this was basically an assist from Cristiano Ronaldo. I mean, it was a great assist from Ronaldo there, the fact that he basically bounced off his back. But the only problem is he bounced that one off the back right to a South Korean player. So, yeah, whoops. That was a mistake there from CR7 there. But South Korea would take it. That ties the game up at 1 apiece. And then on the other end, it looked like Ronaldo was trying to make amends of it, but he was robbed by Kim Seung-gru here as the flag went up. So even if Ronaldo puts it away, it wouldn't have counted. And then the South Korean goalkeeper would deny down on the curler, and Portugal was pressing back to try to retake the lead. Sung then hits one right to Costa in the 40th minute before Nunez would fire one over the bar from close. Then Kim Seung-gru would deny Vitinha, and on the follow-up, Ronaldo had a chance to head it in, but he puts that one wide. And then Horta hits one right to Kim Seung-gru, as it was definitely some decent opportunity for Portugal to get themselves the lead back. But we do head to halftime tied at 1 apiece between both of these teams. Now in the second half, Ronaldo would hit one right to Kim Seung-gru before I thought that Portugal continued to dominate possession, as South Korea, I thought for the most part they were still trying to maybe sit back a little bit, trying to hit Portugal on the counterattack. Song had a chance in the 66th minute, but his shot goes straight to Diego Costa, and then Costa would deny Mbom after just a terrible giveaway from Portugal. Yeah, I thought Portugal got away with one there, because anytime when you give the ball away so cheaply like that, yeah, the South Korean team has that ability to punish you. Leao then puts it wide from long range before Lee King-in puts it wide on the free kick, and as the time winds down, it just didn't look like it was gonna happen for South Korea. And then it did happen. In the first minute of stoppage time, it's Kwon Hee-chin that lives in the folklore of South Korean soccer, as he scored here from Sung Hin-min to give South Korea a 2-1 lead. And the chaos continue in this World Cup, because, with that lead and knowing the other result that was going on, it was South Korea, the one that is moving on into the next round. And in the end, South Korea was able to get the 2-1 win in this one against Portugal, as the shots in this game actually dead even at 13 apiece, and that goes the same with the shots on goal, 6 apiece for both of these teams. 3 shots off target for the 2 that Portugal has, 5 shots that was blocked for the 4 that Korea has, or South Korea has. Gotta be careful how I say that. And then possession wise, 62% possession compared to 38% possession that Portugal has, which I think that's got to be wrong though. I think it's actually the other way around, because there's no way South Korea in this game had more possession compared to Portugal. Consider I thought Portugal had most of the ball, so I must have got that one wrong there. I might have to double check to see if that is the case. But yeah, with South Korea winning this one, now all they need to hope is the fact that in the game between Ghana and Uruguay, in the game where it was 2-0 for a very long time, they were hoping that maybe Uruguay wouldn't score another goal in this one, because after Juan Hinchan scored that goal in the first minute of stoppage time, they were able to move on into the next round. But because of the fact that this game there was a lot of stoppage time, and that there was I think about a good 6 minute apart from between this one and this game, there was no a chance that Uruguay, despite the fact they know the other result has kind of went against them, they had a chance to push for that winner, and it turns out, or not the winner, but that third goal to get them through on the goal difference tiebreaker, and unfortunately it did not happen. But early on there was a huge shout for a penalty for Uruguay that was not given. That would be a big talking point, and certainly something that Uruguayan fans and the players will be very upset after this game is over. But there was no doubt that I thought Ghana was actually the one that were on the front foot, because they know that they had to win in this game if they have any chance to progress into the next round. Rochit then denied Ayew in the 16th minute, but then a penalty was given to Ghana, and this was actually on the same place after Rochit denied Ayew. He actually brought down Kudus in the box there. There was then some pushing and shoving between both of these teams, because Uruguay was trying to show their sportsmanship there, and show their gamesmanship there by basically delaying this penalty. They were trying to once again get in the heads of Ghana, kind of similar to what we saw about 12 years ago in the 2010 World Cup. And guess what? It worked again in this one, because once again in a penalty for Ghana, a chance to get themselves a lead in a big moment in a World Cup, they missed it. As Rocher was able to deny Ayew from the spot there, though I gotta say this was not a great penalty from Ayew, and you just feel like maybe he didn't look confident when he stepped up to take this penalty, because he kind of hits this one right to Rocher, and this was pretty easy for the Uruguayan goalkeeper to keep that one out. But that being said, Nunes had a shot that was clear off the line by Salisu, as Uruguay almost had a chance to take the opening lead right after when the penalty kick was missed. But in the 26th minute, they would take the opening goal of this game, or they would take the lead in this one, as Aris Quito would score here for Uruguay to give them a 1-0 lead, and it just came off of a bad turnover from Ghana. Like, you cannot turn the ball away like that and expect to get away with one. And then in the 32nd minute, Aris Quito would score again. This time he scored from Suarez there to make it 2-0 in favor of Uruguay. What a volley that was from Aris Quito there to give Uruguay a 2-0 lead. Though in the 36th minute, Kudus actually tried to, well, actually not equalize, but actually tried to get one back, but it was blocked away there. And as expected, I thought there was definitely some physical play in this one. I mean, there was definitely some really rough challenge between both of these teams, because we know what happened in that 2010 World Cup. These two teams, yeah, they do not like each other, and that there was not a big surprise that there was a lot of rough challenges, and the players, they were not shy away to make those crunching kind of challenges, and therefore we also saw a lot of yellow cards that was handed in this one. But we do head to halftime with Uruguay leading 2-0 in this one. In the second half, Kudus tried to stab one in and get one back for Ghana, but he just could not quite reach that one. Ghana once again on the front foot, and Uruguay, they were just looking to sit on this lead. I mean, they have this 2-0 lead in this one, and they thought that maybe that was comfortable enough for them to move on into the next round. What they didn't know is the fact that South Korea and Portugal was tied up at 1 apiece, and if South Korea can actually get one more goal, then all of a sudden Uruguay would find themselves out of this World Cup because of the goal score tiebreaker. And yeah, we know how that of course went down, and the inability for Uruguay to get that third goal would come back to haunt them. But they actually looked like they had a chance to get that third goal, and this is where the controversy began, where there was no penalty to Uruguay after VAR deemed that Nunez was not brought down by Amarty, and actually I should say was not brought down. I don't know why I wrote was brought down there. But originally, when I first looked at it, I thought that was not the right call, and that this was again one of those moments where VAR got it wrong. It's not the first time I've said this throughout this World Cup. But then when I look at it a couple of times, I just feel like, in my opinion, I don't think Nunez was actually brought down by Marti, and if anything, if there was really not a lot of contact, if any contact into it. I mean, yeah, Marti definitely did kind of slide in there and made a bit of a clumsy challenge, but then I feel like it looked like, if you look at on a slow motion, it feels like maybe Nunez did try to draw the penalty a little bit there, and that for me, when I look at the slow motion, I feel like that was the right call in the end. And keep in mind, whatever they look in VAR, I think they try to maybe slow things down, and maybe that's why they overturn the original call, or actually not overturn the original call. The original call was no penalty, and they decided to stick with it. But either way, a very controversial moment here, and that if you ask any Uruguay fans, they would say that this is the moment where they feel like they got robbed in this game, and that they should have got a penalty and a chance to make it 3-0. Though that being said, Pellister would hit one into the side netting, and that one actually fooled JP De La Camera. And yeah, JP De La Camera, he kind of had an Al Michaels moment where he thought that one was 3-0 in favor of Uruguay, and then realized, oh wait, that actually hits the side netting there. By the way, JP De La Camera and Kobe Jones were the commentators in this one, and in the 58th minute, they even talk about how they were surprised that was not a penalty. And again, you just gotta have to look at it a couple of times to realize that maybe Amarty didn't really make any contact into Nunez, and it was more like Nunez the one that, of course, tried to draw the penalty there, and therefore that's why that, of course, wasn't given. So that's one of the few times that I actually did disagree with what the commentator said, that they thought for sure that was a penalty. But that being said, I thought Ghana, they got to be careful, because they were getting caught out at the back every time when Uruguay go on the counter. They were able to find some success. In fact, their goalkeeper had to make a big save here, as he had to deny Valverde, who hit an absolute rocket from long range. And actually, not just a rocket, but just a knuckler there that really caught Ataziki by surprise there. Kudus then blasted high from long range before Valverde tried to chip the keeper there from 50 yards out. I mean, he saw Ataziki off his line trying to chip him there. Didn't quite work out. Samario then hits one just wide from close range before Rochert had to deny Kudus from point blank. And again, there was definitely chances for both of these teams to get that next crucial goal. But again, going back to what I said about Uruguay trying to get that third goal and the inability to not getting it, well, it turns out it was going to come back to haunt them, because in the 86th minute, just as when Hung Hee-chan scored the go-ahead goal for South Korea, I'm pretty sure the entire Uruguayan fan base in that stadium and Luis Suarez noticed that too, because Luis Suarez, he went for part of this game, they show footage or show camera angle of Suarez being happy and stuff like that. But after when that moment happened, you can see he was brought into tears, because he knew that this, most likely is his last World Cup, and he knew that this is definitely not the way he was envisioned for his last ever World Cup for Uruguay, and that he immediately pointed to the team that they need to score one more goal, because this 2-0 result was not going to be enough for them to move on into the next round because of the goal scored tiebreaker. And again, as thing stands, South Korea would go through, because they do have the tiebreaker in terms of more goals scored than Uruguay has. But in the 88th minute, they had a chance to make it 3-0, but Ataziki just robbed Cavani there on a point-blank effort, though it wouldn't have counted because the flag went up. And then there was another huge shout for a penalty, as Cavani thought that he was brought down in the box. I think that was a good call that he wasn't given a penalty, because you can clearly see Cavani. He was trying to embellish there a little bit. I mean, if this was MLS, I think he probably would have got a fine by Disco on Tuesday morning. But yeah, in this one, it was pretty clear that he was trying his best to draw any contact, and there was really nothing into that. Though that being said, in the 5th minute of stoppage time, Ataziki did deny Gomez from long range. I mean, Uruguay was just pushing man forward. They knew that they had to get that third goal, and Cortez had a chance in the 8th minute, but he puts it wide there. And yeah, in the end, Uruguay unable to find that third goal, and even with the 2-0 victory against Ghana, they're out of the World Cup alongside with Ghana in this one. As the shots in this one, 12 shots compared to 10 that Ghana has, 7 shots on goal compared to 4 that Ghana has, 3 shots off target compared to 5 that Uruguay has, 3 shots that was blocked compared to none that Uruguay has, and possession-wise, 51% possession compared to 49% possession that Uruguay has in this game. And in the end, I think the inability of Uruguay able to score goals come back to haunt this team. And this is kind of the thing about this World Cup, where, you know, if you're going to move on into the next round, not only you need to, of course, win games, but you got to make sure that you're also able to score goals, because if you're not able to do so, then you are basically leaving yourself with a very fine margin and could potentially miss out on the next round. Which is why I think when you also look at what I said yesterday of how the US were able to move on despite only scoring 2 goals and conceding 1, that just makes it even more impressive, because normally that probably should not be enough for you to move on into the next round. But in their case, they're very fortunate that they were able to get through because of how the group plays out. That unfortunately was not so for Uruguay. And again, you know, with them having been able to score a goal coming into this one, they didn't even score their first goal until the 26th minute by Eric Kuta there, and that, yeah, it came back to haunt them in a big way. And that, like I said, it's a big surprise to see both. It's actually Portugal and South Korea that is moving on into the next round, and not what many people thought, that it would be Portugal and Uruguay the one to do, and maybe even Ghana too. I mean, for Ghana, I know it would be disappointed for them to be eliminated, but you knew that coming into this one, they don't really care if they might move on or not. All they probably care is that they got to make sure Uruguay doesn't move on into the next round, and that's exactly what happened. In fact, the fans kind of feel like that's the case, because after the game, you can definitely see that on Twitter. I saw some Ghanaian fans, they were celebrating like their team is moving on to the next round, but what they were really celebrating is because Uruguay didn't make it through. And again, it just goes back to that history of that 2010 World Cup. You know, Ghana will never forget that moment. And I guess in this game, you know, I don't want to say it's revenge, because they lost this one and they didn't move on into the next round, but at the same time, at least they're kind of happy that it kind of indirect revenge with seeing that Uruguay also not able to move on and suffer a bit of a heartbreak because of the result between South Korea and Portugal. But that being said, moving on, in terms of the next match, we have Cameroon versus Brazil. Now we get to the part of these last 2 games where it turns out where we begin the day in terms of Group G is actually how we end it in the standings. But that's not due to some surprising result that happened in this game, and this was definitely one of them, with Cameroon pulls off the 1-0 upset against Brazil. And even though Cameroon, of course, did not make it through because Switzerland was able to get the win against Serbia, Cameroon will be holding their heads up high after this tournament. And especially one certain player that decided that he was definitely going to go out the tournament with a bang. But in the first half, like France, I thought Brazil decided to kind of play their B team in this one, knowing that they're already qualified. Like there really isn't much to play for coming into this game. But in the 14th minute, Ipasi did rob Martinelli from a point-blank header. This won't be the only time that Ipasi would make a big save, as he actually had a really good game in this one. But there was no doubt that Brazil has all the possession to start this game, and they were putting some pressure on Cameroon to get the opening goal. Though on the other end, a dangerous cross came from Abubakar there that was punched away by Ederson, and then Fred puts it over the bar. But that one actually took a deflection, so it was a corner for Brazil there in the 21st minute. Then Dani Alves actually puts it high on a 22-yard free kick. I was really surprised to see Dani Alves playing for Brazil, because he's like 38 or 39 years old, and he's now playing in Mexico. I didn't think he would even get a shot of being called by this Brazilian national team, but here he is in the twilight of his career, still playing for Brazil and almost had a chance to score a goal there in the 34th minute. But in the 38th minute, Anthony did put one right to Ipasi as the shots were 8-0 in favor of Brazil. Like, it was total dominance by Brazil up to this point over Cameroon. Ipasi then denied Anthony from 17 yards out before Rodrigo would pose it wide after Brazil tried to do something off the training ground on the corner. But then in the 3rd minute of stoppage time, Edison actually had to make a save here, and he actually robbed Mo there on the header there. I mean, this one was a one hopper that looked like it was going to sneak past Edison there. But Edison with a cat-like reflex, and just kind of remind everybody that, yeah, you know, he's a good goalkeeper too. Like, everybody talk about Alisson being a great goalkeeper for Brazil. Don't forget about Edison. I mean, there's a reason why he's a regular starter for Manchester City. And yeah, he made a big save here. And that actually was the first shot on goal that Brazil have allowed in this tournament. Just to show you how dominant they've been throughout this tournament, especially on the defensive front. But we do head to halftime, scoreless between both of these teams. And in the second half, Abubakar would post one just wide from close range. And despite Brazil still kind of out shooting Cameroon in this one, Cameroon has had a couple of good opportunity. I mean, they came close right on the stroke of halftime of almost getting a goal completely against the run of play. But then in the 53rd minute, there was actually a chaos that was in the Cameroon box, which in the end, it was Ipasi, the one that was able to gather this one, but not before he decided to kind of shove one of his defender out so that he can cover the ball. I mean, I don't think that's something I've ever seen where a goalkeeper decided to literally shove his defender out of the way so he can gather the ball. Like, normally, you as a goalkeeper, you hope that maybe your defender would get to it and clear this one away, but I think Ipasi was not taking any chance. Like, he literally decided, yeah, get out of my way. I'm going to cover this one before you cause more trouble. But that being said, in the 56th minute, Ipasi would then deny Martinelli from close range before he would deny Anthony in the 58th minute. And again, he was putting a goalkeeping clinic, Ipasi here from the Cameroon goalkeeper. Nichin then puts one right to Edison before Pedro would blast it high in the 88th minute. And Brazil, again, they just, you know, the quality is definitely there. Even though this is still just a B team for Brazil, you can see that they're even with this B team, it can still be a team that can take on anybody with no problem. But in this game, they just didn't show that clinical finishing, and that they just didn't bring their shooting boots in this game. And that kind of has been a problem for Brazil in this tournament, because they've only scored 3 goals in this tournament, and that there's been times where they have missed some big opportunity. And those big opportunity that they miss, it comes back to haunt them, because in the first minute of stoppage time, or in the second minute of stoppage time, Boubacar would score from Mbekele to give Cameroon a 1-0 lead. Again, apologies if I completely butchered that, but that was definitely a wild moment for Cameroon, and that Boubacar, knowing the fact that he just did something that was going to potentially go in the history books, because I think coming into this game, there was no African team ever beaten Brazil. He decided to take his shirts off in this moment. The problem is, he was already on a yellow card, so you knew that he was, of course, going to get a second yellow card because of it, and indeed that is the case. In fact, the referee actually even kind of high-five, well, not really high-five, but kind of shake hand with Abubakar, knowing the fact that, yeah, when you decide to take your shirts off like that, you are, of course, going to get your second yellow card. And, you know, normally, I think some people would say, well, why would you do that if you're already on a yellow card? My argument with that is that, you know, it really, up to this point, it just felt like it was very unlikely for Cameroon to move on into the knockout stage. So why not decided to try to score a goal and go out with a bang? And that's kind of exactly what Abubakar has had. Plus, this is definitely going to be a moment that he'll never forget, and certainly a moment that will be history books in Cameroon soccer. So yeah, I don't blame him for taking off his shirt. I mean, he must be absolutely jubilant, and it was just kind of maybe at the heat of the moment that he just did something that nobody thought that it was going to happen coming into this game. But that being said, Marquinhos did have a chance in the ninth minute, but he missed an absolute sitter from close range because that's kind of sums up the finishing for Brazil. It was very lackluster in this game, and deservedly, they lost this one 1-0. The first time that Brazil have lost a group stage game since the '98 World Cup. So that just shows you again how unlikely this victory was from Cameroon, where they were facing a team that have been unbeaten in the past 17 group stage game, and that, yeah, again, this just shows you how this World Cup, expect the unexpected. Expect some crazy result that you thought that it was going to be unthinkable in the beginning of the World Cup, and then it happened. The shots in this one, 21 shots compared to 7 that Cameroon has, 3 shots on goal compared to 7 that Brazil has, 11 shots off target compared to 3 that Cameroon has, 3 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that Cameroon has, and possession-wise, 65% possession compared to 35% possession that Cameroon has in this game. But that being said, moving on in terms of the last match of today's action, and really the last match in terms of the group stage action, is Serbia versus Switzerland. And you knew coming into this game, this was going to be a fun game, and also a matchup that it could definitely get heated between both of these teams, because both of these national teams, they do not like each other, whether it's on the field or off the field situation. You knew that there was going to be some tempers flare that could happen in this one, and boy, we got both of just an exciting matchup, and definitely some tempers that was boiling throughout this game. Now, early on, they were actually doing the countdown, but Switzerland was still in the huddle, so I think this is the second time that the stadium announcer absolutely botched the countdown. The first time I remember they botched the countdown was in the opening game between Qatar and Ecuador, where they decided to count down, and before the announcer had finished his chance to count down, the referee already blew for the first half whistle. So yeah, another weird moment to see the countdown being made, and yet the whistle hasn't even blown because Switzerland was still in the huddle. But that being said, in the first minute and just 20 seconds in, Milinkovic-Savic had to deny Xhaka from close range, as again, we almost saw perhaps the fastest goal in this tournament so far. But in the 5th minute, Milinkovic would then heads it wide from close on the header for Serbia before Zivkovic, which struck the post from long range. But it actually bounced right to Vlahovic, which I don't know, he knew a lot about this one because he kind of bounced a weak shot right back to Sommer. And 13 minutes in, the shots were already 3 apiece for both of these teams. It was pretty clear that both of these teams, they were going for early and were looking to try to get the opening goal. And it's not a big surprise we would get the opening goal early in this one. It happened in the 20th minute as Xherdan Shaqiri would score from so to give Switzerland a 1-0 lead. Then there was a shout for a penalty for the Swiss that was not given. But in the 26th minute, that lead that Switzerland has quickly evaporates, as it's Mitrovic that scored from Tadic to give the equalizer for Serbia. Shaqiri tried to retake the lead for Switzerland and try to score his second goal, but he puts that one wide. But then in the 35th minute, Serbia turned this game on its head. It's Vlahovic that scores here to make it 2-1 in favor of Serbia, and this came off of a terrible defense. Or this actually came because of terrible defending from the Swiss. Like, one of the Swiss players, he literally just kind of played this one right to Vlahovic, who said, "Thank you very much, I'm just going to put this one away." And yeah, just like that, Serbia took the lead, and up to that point, we were thinking, oh, are we in for more chaos? Because up to this point, it was Serbia the one that is moving on into the next round, and they were trying to do something that South Korea did earlier today, which is coming into the final group, bottom of the group, and somehow are able to move on into the next round. But that dream quickly came to dash in the 44th minute as Switzerland would tie the game up. It's Mbolo that scored from scored from Whitmer to make it get 2 apiece between both of these teams. I almost said Wildmer there. There's no L in Whitmer's name, but there was no doubt the pendulum once again will switch right back to Switzerland, as it feels like it was clockwork again. Like, for 1 second it feels like the pendulum was in Serbia favor, and then it basically switched right back to Switzerland favor because of them getting the equalizer. And that also was the scoreline heading into halftime, as I think that was the highest scoreline heading into halftime, because I don't think we had a game in this tournament where we're heading halftime at 2 apiece. But in the second half, we wouldn't stay 2 apiece for long, because in the 48th minute, Freuler would score from Vargas to make it 3-2 in favor of Switzerland, and that is the last thing that Serbia needs. Like, they knew that giving up a goal right on the stroke of halftime has to be a gut punch, and now you give up the lead once again in this one. Yeah, it just feels like this is going to be a big mountain to climb for the Serbian team. And they almost find themselves 4-2 down, and probably should have been 4-2 down, because Mbolo, he missed high on the doorstep of goal. I mean, he basically did a Romelu Lukaku here, was on the doorstep of goal, should have tapped it in from close range, and he just kind of fluffed his lines there. Though on the other end, Tadic did put it wide from close range before there was a huge shout for a penalty for Serbia, as Mitrovic thought that he was brought down in the box. I think that's a good no call there, because it was pretty clear that Mitrovic was trying to do an Edison Cavani, trying to dive so that he can win a penalty, and the referee was just having none of it. We then saw some pushing and shoving between both of these team, and oh, by the way, this is before Serbia was really trying to push man forward, knowing the fact that they need a winner, and they were upping the tempo. But again, we saw some pushing and shoving, we saw some coming together between both of these teams, because just a reminder that both of these teams, they do not like each other whatsoever. But in the 82nd minute, Akinji would hit a free kick that hits the side netting there before Milinkovic-Savic has to deny force now from close range. And then on the other end, Jovic had to put it. Jovic actually puts it over the bar from long range. And then right near the end of the game, this is where we once again saw more tempers flare. And I'm kind of surprised we actually didn't see a red card here, because it was very heated. Like, both of these teams, they were getting in each other their faces at the end of the game. And that, again, I think at the end of the day, even though it was very heated, those kind of pushing and shoving, at least there was no kind of aggression where somebody maybe punched someone, or somebody decided to put the hands in the face of the opponent, which you can definitely get yourself sent off because of it. But nevertheless, it was definitely a bit of an ugly scene in a game where, we knew that there was going to be some hot tempers because of how both of these teams, as I said, not only they don't not like each other, but in terms of just even going out in terms of the political viewpoint between both of these teams, that there's some conflict at political standpoint between both of these teams that I won't mention in this video, but you probably know it. And if you don't know it, just go research, and you find out why whenever a Serbia and Switzerland kind of matchup is always very heated. But in the end, it was Switzerland that is able to win 3-2, and they're moving on into the next round along with Brazil in their group. Shots in this one, 14 shots compared to 12 that Serbia has, 4 shots on goal compared to 7 that Switzerland has, 4 shots off target compared to 6 that Serbia has, 3 shots on goal compared to 2 that Serbia has, and possession-wise, 54% compared to 46% possession that Switzerland has in this game. Overall, very entertaining game, and just kind of live up to its hype and what this game, of course, would turn out. But Switzerland will definitely be the more happier side. Well, they have to be, because they're moving on into the next round. And that pretty much concludes what we've seen in terms of the craziness and chaos throughout this group stage. And yeah, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this video, and what do you think of the group stage action? Because again, compared to the group stage we saw in this World Cup to the last World Cup, is like just comparing apples and oranges. I mean, it's been just kind of chaotic. I think at one point where there's been just some really crazy event that we see more in this World Cup compared to what we've seen in the last one. And let's see whether that's going to be the same case as the knockout stage begin. And oh, by the way, the first game of the knockout stage is probably the one that I'll look forward to the most, because that's when the US are going to be playing in the opening knockout match against the Netherlands. And I'll also make a video right after this video talk about my prediction in terms of who's going to be winning the World Cup, and I can't wait to see how badly made I will be, or how wrong I'm going to be in terms of the prediction once I do that video right after this one is over. Which, speaking of which, it's pretty much almost over. It's time to once again tell you guys to let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this video? And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.